Good morning, Adam.
Hey Kanye, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Great. I'm using my personal laptop for this, and sometimes that doesn't always work. Well, I think we're in the right. There we go. There's more people joining. We get it just another minute or two, Kanye. It looks like people are starting to trickle in.
All right.
All right, Kanye. Sorry, I got kicked out for a second, but we'll get started here. As long as you're ready.
I am.
Perfect. Well, welcome everyone to March's rendition of Coffee with a Local Leader. We have the pleasure of speaking with Kanye Ori today. First, wanted to give a special thanks to our sponsors, Ice Miller, Keepy, Blue & Co., Arc Design, Cornerstone, and InvoCare for allowing us to have these great conversations with our local leaders. Quick intro about Konye. Konye is the director of Community Medicine Women's Health Service line at IU Health. Konye helps lead value-based care delivery, influences healthcare administration excellence, fosters civic discourse in Indiana, and coaches youth soccer. As a health system executive at IU Health, Ori helps lead efforts to increase healthcare access, equity, and quality for Hoosiers seeking obstetrics and gynecological care in the Indianapolis suburban region. As a board member of the American College of Healthcare Executives, Indiana, Ori helps to promote high ethical standards and conduct to advance healthcare leadership and management excellence across the state. As a board member of the Benjamin Harrison President's Site and chair of the Education Committee, Ori helps increase public participation in the American system of self-government, civics, and polity. As a youth soccer coach, Ori helps build athletic development, character, competitiveness, and sportsmanship across young athletes in Carmel, Indiana. Ori received his undergraduate degree in communication and international relations from the University of Indianapolis, a master's degree in organizational communication from Indiana University, and a postgraduate diploma in strategic healthcare leadership from Cornell University. He's a fellow of the American College of Medical Practice Executives, a fellow of the American College of Healthcare Executives, and a certified healthcare finance professional. Ori and his team continue to position IU Health as a trusted partner in the Indiana healthcare community for specialized OBGYN care. As we get started, I just wanted to remind everyone that I will be asking Konye a few direct questions, but please feel free to throw any questions you may have in the chat. So Konye, without further ado, we will get started. First, would you mind sharing with us why you chose a healthcare profession and a little bit about your career path post-graduation?
Thank you, Adam. Hello, everyone. First part of the question was why or how I chose healthcare.
Yes.
Fascinating. So originally, when I was a little boy, I wanted to be Secretary General of the United Nations. My mother was an ambassador, and so I was fascinated with international relations and government and so on and so forth. And so that's why I went into communication and political science and international relations. And then when after graduate school, I got accepted to a PhD program at George Mason University for PhD in conflict resolution. After one semester, I realized this is not what I want to do. It was clear to me that the ability to influence conflict resolution on the global scale through the United Nations just was a pipe dream. That's how I felt. I was disillusioned. And so I thought, okay, I've got to rethink my whole life. So I accepted a job in Kansas as an associate professor. And so while I was doing that, after 3.5 years, I thought, oh, okay, I've always liked medicine. Now, of course, I can't go back to medical school. What? So how else can I contribute? I thought, how about as an administrator? How about helping to influence the change that you hear about and engage in conversations about to move healthcare forward? And so I thought, okay, so then I found this Sloan program at the Johnson School of Management at Cornell, and it was an accelerated program for folks who have master's degrees and leaders in healthcare. And at the time, I worked for the School of Public Health as the director of prevention, mental health, substance use and misuse. And so I thought, well, that qualifies. And so I applied, I got accepted. So I studied strategic healthcare leadership. And once I was done, I felt comfortable enough to apply for my current position. And so that's how I joined healthcare. It was just being disillusioned with conflict resolution and returning to what I consider was my first love, which was healthcare. And so I made the transition.
Great, thank you. Can you talk a little bit more about your current position in a little bit more detail than what I mentioned in your introduction and the main role of your position within the system?
Thank you. Yes, I can. So I am no expert in OBGYN. I am no expert in healthcare delivery of any kind. What I am is I have the fortune and the privilege to lead the true experts, the true subject matter experts. I think I have the greatest team across IU Health. I have practice administrators who have 40 years of experience in healthcare management and operations. I have 20 years experience. I have 15 years experience on my team. So I've got a very, I always say a coach is as good as the stars on the team. So if you have Kobe and LeBron on your team, the chances that you're going to be a good coach is very high. That's kind of how I feel. I have these great stars on my team, and all I do every day is just lead. So I talk to my senior leaders and try to understand the vision. What's the plan? What's the vision? Where we're going? And I just hold that up to the team. Here's where we're going. Let's get there. I trust you can get there. What are some of your ideas? How do we get there? And I listen to them, and I try to just be a support system, and I try to get them resources that they need. I try to get out of their way as much as I can. I try to make sure that they have everything they need to thrive. If anything, I learn from them every day, right? The most important voice in every meeting is the voice of the people who are closest to the problem, closest to the patients, closest to closest to the customers. So in this case, practice administrators, practice managers who are in the clinics day to day, they know more than I do, and so I count on them every day to educate me on how things are going. And then wherever there are problems or challenges, then we rub minds to find solutions. I think of this role as problem solving. I'm in the business of problem solving, and all I can do is just find the resources available to us to solve problems. So in doing that, of course, I work with a very amazing physician leader, Dr. Karen Gallagher. She's awesome. And what we try to do every so often, at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of the quarter, not only do we preview what the quarter should look like, we also review how well we did. But in previewing what our quarter would look like, what our year would look like, we try to talk about what can we influence, what can we change. Because you understand, working for a large healthcare system, there's some things that are very centralized and some things are decentralized. So a lot of the big bucket items are very centralized. We don't get to control or dictate what the market should be for MA pay or compensation. We don't get to dictate, compensation for providers without going through the proper channels, right? PCAP and all. So we understand our limit, and then we obviously advocate where we can, but we try to understand what's within our power. And the things within our power is really how we increase operational efficiencies and optimization at the clinic level, our physician engagement and satisfaction, our team member engagement and satisfaction, making sure that we are good stewards, right? We all have a fiduciary duty to be good stewards of our resources. How can we ensure that we are very lean and responsible with our expenses? And what can we do to improve our revenue generation? And we try to, identify these items and give ourselves goals and targets for the quarter and see how we did. And sometimes, we meet them and sometimes we don't, and we identify gaps and try to improve in the following quarter. And then sometimes we step out and say, okay, outside the day-to-day operations, because it's very easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, trying to, make sure you're meeting target and you're checking boxes and and doing all of this day-to-day, and you forget the why behind the why. So at the end of the day, we got into this to make a difference, right? We all say that as leaders. You wanted to influence and move healthcare forward. You want to make sure that communities that you serve, people have on the top access to healthcare, and that we are sensitive to ethnic and racial and gender disparities and orientational disparities and all these things. And what are we doing to move the needle? And if you just focus on the day to day, you forget those tasks or those visions. And so sometimes we step back and say, okay, in the big picture, what are we doing to say we made a difference for this demographic? We made a difference for this group of patients. We made a difference here. We made a difference there. And we try to hold ourselves accountable to some of those goals outside what our organization wants us to do based on the metrics that are salient to us for the year. And so one story that comes to mind is there was a situation where a patient walked in and had a blood draw, and the generic tape plaster, it's very beige in a way, and this patient was African American, and it was very obvious that they had a band-aid on, and we thought, it'd be quite interesting if we found a band-aid that was tone sensitive, skin tone sensitive, and we tasked the PAs to go do a little research, and they found this supplier that sold different shades of skin color band-aids. And we're like, voila, it'll make a patient smile if you give them an option of band-aids post blood draw, whatever it is. that matched their skin tone. And we tried this out, and this was very well received. And it was just that little act of nothing that just, just being sensitive in that regard and seeing the patient just smile and say, wow, I never knew this existed. It's those kinds of things, right? We have a lot of, we serve a lot of mothers or pregnant mothers or soon to be mothers, pregnant women in demographics that struggle with insurance, access to transportation, access to food, and so on and so forth. And so we looked around, and then we found this We Care program, thanks to our partners downtown, and we partnered with them. And now we have social workers coming in, providing resources to mothers who otherwise would have no access to food, transportation, these kinds of things. And Dr. Gallagher and I think that those efforts that are outside our day-to-day metrics are just what makes it enjoyable to come to work every day. We keep our pulse on the taps of, we keep our hands on what's important, right, on a day-to-day operations, but we make sure we don't lose sight of the big picture, right, trying to make a difference in the lives of patients, whoever they may be.
Great. Thank you, Konye. I really love your little anecdote about the tone sensitive skin bandage. That's something I probably never would have thought of myself.
Yep.
It's great to hear that you and your team tasked that and found a solution that made a patient smile. I think that's great.
Thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about overcoming adversity or challenges that you had early on in your career, things that helped you overcome them, what the challenge was in the role that helped you advance in your career?
That's a very interesting question because it's not very, I don't know if I have to look back too long. Very recently, we had some major setback in my department. We had we had transitioned to a new platform, Center Model Charge, and we in OBGYN use internal codes when we see patients for their prenatal care and up until delivery, and then we bill globally for the entire care journey. So when we transitioned to Center Model Charge, the internal codes that were given to us carried work RVU weight, okay? And so they should have carried a 0 RVU rate because we were capturing the RVUs in the back end, but somehow they carried weight. And so we ended up overpaying providers by a lot. And so we had to find ways to, we had to decide, do we recoup or do we write off? So that was a big issue. We ended up writing off with blessings from senior leadership, but that was a big issue. So, okay, it wasn't 100% our fault, that's fine. Next time around, we had a provider who had transitioned from being a laborist, from being a generalist into becoming a laborist. And somehow in that transition, somebody on my team forgot to change her information in the system. And so she was getting paid as a generalist as opposed to her pay as a laborist. And that was significantly more. And so we ended up overpaying her by about $80,000. Again, you have to awkwardly go and sit down, review all of this, and try to recoup or write off. These are very uncomfortable conversations to have with physician comp, with the chief financial officer, and with the provider. Again, another setback. Oh God, what's going on? And then we recently switched our infection prevention methods, right? We went from whatever we were using to trophons, okay? And we had clinical team members had the education they needed, and it turns out it wasn't sufficient because they were utilizing the disinfecting tool, but they were not logging to standard, if you will. They were logging, but there were some problems with the way they were logging. And eventually, somebody raised the flag. This was a big issue, got escalated all the way to the very top. So 3 buckets of problems. And in those moments, when looked at collectively, you feel down. It's like, oh my goodness, what's going on? So we had to come together and say, hey, we are doing terribly, right? We've had 3 major faux pas. This is not good. We don't look like we know what we're doing. It looks like we're not communicating enough. It looks like we're not exchanging information enough or soliciting information enough. It looks like we're not checking in on things enough. And we go through all the what could have gone wrong, how all of this could have happened. And we had to hold ourselves accountable. So I had a meeting with my team, a reset meeting with my team not too long ago, and we all made pledges, and we all came, came up with ideas to fill in the gaps at every instance where things could have been caught or fixed or corrected. What could have happened, and those things are now law of the land, right? So we're a little bit more busier now, a little bit more. We've asked for over communication of everything across the service line. So, but mentally, this takes a toll, right? When you get a talking to from your boss, and then your direct reports get a talking to from you, everybody's morale gets down, because sometimes our identities are kind of tied to our work, whether or not we want it to be. But you feel like not so much a failure, but you feel low. So how did I get myself back up? How did I get my team back up? I had to rely on folks like David Marquette. He's author of the book Leadership is Language, one of my favorite books. He talks about how, I mean, his idea draws from Edward Sapir and Benjamin Wolf's hypothesis that words influence our thoughts, and our thoughts influence our actions, and our actions influence our culture, right? And so if we talk ourselves up, we begin to think of ourselves as something, and then we begin to act as such, and then the culture around us changes. And I almost so I went back to the team and began to remind them all of how amazing we've been. Remind them of all the successes we've had, because sometimes in leadership, right, the highs are not that high and the lows are very low, right? So we've had these lows and they feel very low. So going back to remind them of all the successes we've had, and all the needles we've moved, and all the progress we've made, and remind them of how amazing they've been, and so on and so forth. And also reminding myself, of course, of some of the things that I think I've achieved here, going back to my checklist, and so on and so forth. Just kind of getting yourself back in there, because as you begin to talk about yourself and your team, it changes the way you think about yourself and your team. And we've been acting, hopefully, in ways that show that we are here to make a difference, and we are making a difference despite these shortcomings and pitfalls. And I think the psyche and the morale on our team has improved since all of this came together. Then just reading up on, you go online and just kind of read or listen to a few TED Talks and a few motivational books that just kind of remind you that your identity is not your job, right? And that everybody has a high and low story. No CEO, no chief executive, no leader out there has just gone through plain sailing without any hiccups, and so on and so forth. And then you kind of draw some respite from some of the stories, and you feel like it's going to be okay. And it does go away after a couple of days, and you get back to your good feeling, and you carry on.
Great. Thank you, Konye.
Thank
At
you.
this time, I'd like to leave it up to the gallery to see if anyone would like to ask Konye a question directly. Feel free to throw one in the chat too if you don't want to come off mute.
Hello, my name is Alicia Felix. I work at Franciscan Health. I know there's a lot of moving parts in legislation right now pertaining to women's health. How do you stay on top of that and keep your mission integrated in the different changes?
That's a very powerful question. I don't know if I can do it justice, but yeah, with all the legislative changes or forthcoming changes, what we do is, so we partner very closely with our academic counterparts at the School of Medicine, and they take the lead on, because they have a department, they have a governmental affairs position in their, and so that person stays abreast with everything happening on a political level, and then spreads information down. And we essentially, to be fair, we do follow the lead of the School of Medicine's Department of OBGYN, because my department is in the community medicine side. And so that's kind of set the stage on how we react or respond to political governmental changes. And we just kind of fall in line and design whatever processes that we need to do to be in agreement. So, well, on my own, I try to stay informed as well. I discuss whatever changes are coming with my physician leader, and sometimes we exchange ideas with our academic counterparts to say, hey, are you guys thinking about this? Are you thinking about that? But overall, we have the impact of all of the conversations I imagine you're referring to. We have seen a decrease in OBGYN wanting to move to Indiana to accept our positions. We've had about 7 open positions since 2002. that we've been struggling to fill. Candidates are citing that potential change as a reason why they don't want to move. And then we've had people, residents who were interested in staying in Indy and working for us, have decided to move out of state as a result. So that has been a challenge. Other than that, we haven't noticed any impact on our delivery volumes or prenatal volumes, and we're still, there's all this theory and assumptions that they may sway one way or another, but so far things are holding steady.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I follow up on Alicia's question? Because you did mention like all of the openings that you've had for so long, and all the changes. Do you? I mean, I'm sure you do, but like, what is your guys' plan to recruit and to try and get some of those OBGYN providers to stay or to kind of come? Because you're right, the demand is still there. We're still seeing the demand and it's increasing.
Yeah.
I'm just curious your thoughts and like what your guys is what you've been kind of brainstorming.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Happy to share.
Yeah, it's multifaceted, right? So obviously, the most primary thing we've done is just gain support from senior leadership to offer forgivable loans, sign-on bonuses. That used to be a no-no, right? But now, as a result, when you look around us, every other entity is doing so to attract folks. So we've just had to employ our resources there in that front. So that has made a difference in some cases. We've made some significant improvement in recruitment just because we have that in place, but it's not the entire story. Then the other way, we've tried to improve our partnership with our residents. So we have a school of medicine right here. And residents, they go out of state all the time. And so what we're trying to do now is we now have two different buckets of, again, types of finances, right? We have an EIP, early incentive. So if you commit to us before you're done with your residency, by your second year, third year, here is $2,000 a month from that time you sign or commit to when you start. That's a huge motivator or incentive. So we have that going. Then we also have the what is it called? Something about I forget what it's called, but it's tied to ethnic and gender and racial minorities, right? So if you're not a School of Medicine resident, but you are maybe at St. V or community resident or wherever else, but if you fall under this category, it's a bucket of money for you as well. That has been very helpful. But most importantly, we're counting on partnership with the School of Medicine to incentivize. So I think starting in January, we were going to start in May, but our current providers weren't ready for this. But starting in May, we're going to be having a rotation partnership where we're going to have residents. Up until now, they don't rotate around our clinics in the community medicine space, but we're going to be having them do that. So they come in, co-scrub with our providers, do deliveries together, spend time in the clinics, fall in love with the clinic, fall in love with the team members, and decide, you know what, I want to be here. I like it here. So we're counting on that to be a major tool for recruitment.
Thank you. That's really exciting.
Thank you.
To hear.
I think we have one. To go. So
we lost you for a second, Adam.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
If anyone has any questions, please feel free to hop off mute. If not, I do have a couple banked questions. So give it a second here. Konye, can you talk a little bit about why you joined ACHE and why you pursued the fellow status and how that was a benefit to your career?
Yes. If you remember, I said I wanted to be a conflict resolution expert and not a healthcare professional. So when I made the decision to transition to healthcare, I needed credentials. I needed street cred, right? So going to the attending the Sloan program in healthcare leadership wasn't going to be enough. I had to supplement that with pursuing my fellowship, and both in the medical practice administration and College of Healthcare Executives, and also pursued board certification with healthcare finance. I needed to have it all because I was almost doing 180, if you will. So I just had to get all of that, not just for my own personal satisfaction, but just to understand a world that I was going into, essentially segueing from what has been my career path or academic journey. And so I just needed all the education I could get. And ACHE provided that education. I mean, the process of studying and showing knowledge of the operations and finance and legal components of healthcare leadership was essential. So I needed to master all of that. And once I did, and I really, if it didn't exist, I feel like I would have struggled to find the very salient information I needed to thrive in my role. But just being part of ACHE and going to the conferences, studying the materials, preparing and spending time in healthcare leadership, even when I was in public health, right before I joined IU Health, and getting mentorship and so on and so forth. It was just all very helpful. And for me, what it's done is it's allowed me to be in conversations that I think I otherwise wouldn't be able to partake in. It's allowed me to join groups and organizations and to be part of be at the table having bigger conversations around the future of healthcare. And I think having that fellowship status has been amazing.
Great. Thank you for that, Konye. In closing, I wanted to say thanks to Konye for taking time out of his busy day. Konye, I think I've shared with you, you're one of my favorite leaders within IU Health. It's great to have some time out of your day to speak about your experiences and what your day-to-day looks like. So I appreciate your time. And thanks for everyone joining us today. In closing, I wanted to share a few reminders for ACHE. We would like to send an invitation to ACHE Congress on March 26th at 7 p.m., where ACHE of Indiana and the Fairbanks School of Public Health will be hosting a networking event for all alumni of the graduate program, faculty, staff, students, chapter members, and sponsors are encouraged to attend. This will be at the Radisson Blu Aqua Hotel starting at 7 p.m. Again, this is March 26th at ACHE Congress. We'd like to extend a special thank you to our event sponsors, Blue & Co. Our next event in collaboration with Nali, Indiana, Coffee con Leche, will be held on April 9th, featuring Carlos Vasquez and Alicia Felix. Alicia will be moderating a conversation with Carlos, who is a COO of Franciscan Health Rensselaer in Crawfordsville. I think that'll personally be a great moderation. Alicia does a fantastic job interviewing individuals. Additionally, please mark your calendars for Healthcare Horizons, Navigating Leadership Challenges and Innovations on April 25th. This ACHE of Indiana program is designed to empower healthcare leaders with invaluable insights and strategies. Attendees can earn 3 in-person education credits, network with peers, and engage with thoughtful leaders. And we also want to send a special thanks to Blue & Co. for sponsoring this event as well. Konye, again, thank you for joining us. I appreciate your time. Wish you all a happy Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.